Good evening, viewers. April 15th, 1912. A day that went down in infamy. A day of great sorrow and loss. A day when the impossible became reality and the unsinkable sank. The fated maiden voyage of the RMS Titanic, the largest ship in the world at the time, set sail from Southampton, England, to New York on April 10th. Aboard were 2,220 passengers and crew. At 11:40 p.m. on the night of April 14, 1912, the behemoth Titanic struck an iceberg, tearing a hole in its side, which would ultimately sink the ship in less than 3 hours. At around 2:20 a.m. on the morning of April 15th, the Titanic disappeared beneath the cold, dark depths of the Atlantic Ocean, plummeting over 12,000 feet into the silent fathoms, splitting the hulking ship in two, claiming more than 1,500 lives, 2/3 of the souls on board. Those perished souls, 1,517 to be exact, formulate the basis for tonight's investigation. To begin, the dead were comprised mainly of crew and third-class passengers. The ship found itself equipped with only 20 lifeboats, which if one were to max out the capacity of each, which by the way they did not, the first lifeboat launched with something like 21 people instead of the 65 that would fit. The 20 lifeboats still would have only accommodated the rescue of approximately 1,100 of the 3,300 people aboard the liner. So, that is some really horrible corner cutting, and I am fairly certain no one ever answered for the blatant disregard for the safety and security of almost 2/3 of the travelers and crew. A purposeful and conscious disregard for human life. I don't want to get bogged down with this course of inquiry. I'm sure the boys could put together a whole series of episodes on this topic alone, or the fact that no one unlocked the binoculars and handed them out to the crew, who would be ordered by Captain Smith to, quote, "Be vigilant of our surroundings every moment that you have access to the open water, and report even the slightest anomaly without haste," end quote. Or how about the fact that for the first time in 1,400 years, a supermoon was churning the sea up like a blender and sending icebergs much further into the shipping lanes than had ever occurred during modern sea travel? All interesting avenues of investigation, but alas not to be addressed tonight. No, tonight we're going to discuss something far more disturbing. Allow me to lay some quick groundwork. After the Titanic sank, it went so deep in such an inhospitable region of the Atlantic that it remained secreted away beneath the gloom of 12,000 feet of midnight. And there it remained until September 1st, 1985, when the wreckage was located by a joint American-French expedition led by Dr. Robert Ballard and Jean-Louis Mitchell. Over the next 40-some years, both manned and unmanned exploration was performed. Video, photography, and the eyes of the explorers themselves poured over the two halves of the ship and everything in between, as the pieces of ship lay thousands of feet apart. As the years ticked by, a very unusual realization crept in. Slowly at first, and then with a pow. Here we come to it. The topic of tonight's show. Can you guess? Have you heard the rumors, the whispers? After 40 years of exploration, my friends, covering every nook and cranny of the wreckage and the sea floor, not one trace of human remains have ever been located. No bones, skulls, or enamel-protected teeth. Nothing. Not a single trace of 1,517 human beings. Wow! Am I right? Did I blow your mind a bit? Did I send shivers across your skin? And with that, my job is done. Are you ready to delve into this haunting mystery with hosts Gunnar, Anthony, and William? With that, I bid you adieu. This is Philip signing off until next time. Pleasant dreams.
What's up? Welcome back to another edition of Dragonstorm's Ancient Myths, Legends, and Lore with Bill Crooks and Anthony DiPaolo, myself, Gunnar Lindblom. And we decided to switch up the format a little bit and kind of address some of the questions and suggestions in the comments. I believe it was Jason from Pasadena, California, brought up the topic of the Titanic and why there's no remains have ever been found, human remains found in the Titanic. And they thought, well, that's an interesting topic that nobody's talked about and discussed, so we're going to get into it. But first, I want to remind everybody to stay tuned to the end of the show, where now we're going to tell you the riddle at the end of the show. So if you want to know the riddle and have a chance to win some of the awesome prizes that we're giving away, you have to stay tuned through the whole show. We're trying to keep them shorter, around 20, 30 minutes, somewhere more like 35 minutes. But just go to the end of the show. Tony's going to give you the riddle. They are solvable, not for me, but most people some people have been able to. Our last one, 300 people solved it, pretty awesome, and won some cool prizes, and we're going to be giving them away. But so stay tuned for Alexander Storm. He will be calling into the show and giving you the riddle. And then Alexander Storm's the main character from Tony's book, Dragonstorm, the namesake of our show. So stay tuned. For now, gentlemen, I have a lot to say about the Titanic, and I think there's certainly some shady stuff and things that people don't know about the Titanic. But if you think about it from a mythological standpoint, think about it. I mean, the irony, the poetic irony of it, that the greatest, most beautiful ocean liner, cruise ship ever made, on its maiden voyage, bumps into an iceberg and sinks in the middle of the ocean. Takes how many years to find? There's Bill is the unsinkable ship. This beautiful, like modern day equivalent of probably $1 billion boat, $1 billion, or more. And then unsinkable, and it bangs off a random, iceberg and rips the hole apart. And there's, I guess there's flaws in the engineering. In hindsight, they've realized the compartmental flaws in the engineering. But whatever the case is, I just want to know where that diamond ended up. I'm just kidding. That's from the movie. That's fiction. But which was a great movie. James Cameron, and that movie's fantastic. Well done. Celine Dion, Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a beautiful rendition and very heartfelt. But there's that's a fictional movie. The real deal, a lot of people died, but some people survived. But there's an interesting questions unanswered. That because here's one thing that happens when a ship goes down to the bottom, bodies don't decompose at the rate that like they would be higher up in the hydrosphere or in an atmosphere. They basically are almost like tombed in the bottom of the sea, where it's about probably 35 degrees down there. There's massive pressure, which keeps everything smashed together where it can't decompose. Although there's some creatures down there who eat. This is something that Anthony's going to talk about. But I'm thinking, what the hell happened to all those people? Why are there no bones? Why are there no remains? No jewelry? Nothing, What's the story behind that, you guys?
Yeah, and it's about the exact number I'll put up, but it's about 1,560 people went down with
yeah.
Paris, there was over 3,000 people on the ship, right?
Yes. And this was I'm so glad that Jason wrote in about this, because I knew nothing about it, and I got a chill when I actually did a little bit of research and saw that it was true. So a team of American, I think it was American and French recovery crew found the Titanic. It's been about 40 years now. I know James Cameron
took a long time to find it.
He was involved with the movie. Yeah, it took forever to find it because it's in the deepest, darkest, scariest
of the Atlantic, anyway.
World,
not of the world. The Pacific. It's way deeper.
The Atlantic. You know what I mean? Yeah, but
it's all going to be cold when you get 1,000 feet down.
It's going to be cold down there. Yeah, you're in the dark end there. There's no light there at all. So basically, we've been down there, and there have been many, many teams. We all have heard the recent tragedy of the sub that went down to, as a recreational type of thing that imploded. So we've been down there for 40 years. And there are amazing photos. There are photos that show china and silverware and things still set up in certain areas of the ship. And we've entered a lot of the compartments and stuff like that. And there has never been one iota of remains found in 40 years of exploring the ship and around the ship too. I don't know when
there's two halves of the ship
of it and why I BS.
There's two halves of the ship.
Yeah,
I think one landed upside down, one whatever, like it broke in half, and then it went down. But my theory is there's some weird stuff with that ship, because there was a sister ship that was, what was the name of the sister ship? There's a sister ship, and that one went down too. It's great. But anyways, so we don't know that much about the deep depths of the oceans. I mean, it's just this it almost might as well be outer space. We only know a fraction, 5% or something of what's down there. So there's all kinds of creatures that live in the depths, and they know this from going to the Mariana Trench and things like that with drones and little submersibles, and they see things that nobody's ever seen before. Creatures that they're luminescent. They create their own light. They create their own light baits to attract other things that they can eat. And so I'm just wondering if somehow something down there found human food to be palatable. You know what I'm saying? It just ate it. Maybe it was a microorganism like a bacteria. Maybe it was like a squid or a crab or a shellfish or something. I don't know. It's maybe.
So how deep is the Titanic down there? Like 12,000 feet?
Yeah, well, there's an anomaly. Well, not an anomaly, but a scientific explanation called calcium carbonate compensation depth.
Sure.
So the ship is below that depth. And there's
that depth is like 3,000 feet, and this
which is the depth that it would dissolve.
It's down 2.4 miles.
Hello all, Philip here again, and it's science class time. You may have just heard Anthony mention a scientific principle known as the calcium carbonate compensation depth, or CCD. So what's this all about, you ask? And what's Anthony going on about now? In the deep ocean, carbonate particles in bottom sediments are supplied by the die-off of surface plankton that secrete calcium carbonate shells. When these shells fall below a certain water depth, they begin to dissolve as ocean waters become undersaturated with respect to calcium carbonate because of increasing pressure, decreasing temperature, and increasing amounts of dissolved CO2. With increasing depth, the rate of dissolution increases. What does this mean for our current line of inquiry? And how accurate is the data that we are working with? Well, to begin with, the claims of the science community are that no remains remain because they came to rest below the CCD, and therefore all the bones of the crew and passengers, which are comprised mainly of calcium, were devoured in dissipation and quickly dissolved into the sea. To understand this claim, we must first understand the functioning principles of CCD, which are quite simple if we drop all the scientific and chemistry set mumbo-jumbo and get to the crux of the matter. The carbonate compensation depth, or CCD, is defined as the water depth at which the rate of supply of calcium carbonate from the surface is equal to the rate of dissolution. So basically anything that is comprised of calcium that enters into the waters on the far side of the CCD marker will succumb quickly to the quadrant's low concentration, and the calcium-starved waters will dissolve the bone in short order. Currently, the Titanic lies approximately 12,500 feet, or 3,800 meters, below the surface of the North Atlantic Ocean. If we turn our attentions to the current body of research and charts, we are able to locate the CCD depth for the section of the Atlantic where the behemoth ship took its last gulps of air. As long as the ocean floor lies above the CCD, carbonate particles will accumulate in bottom sediments, but below there is no net accumulation. The seafloor near ocean ridges is typically above the CCD, and carbonates are important sediment constituents. But with spreading and cooling, the seafloor descends below the CCD, and deep-sea clays become predominant. Sue, long pause, fly in the face of science and established reasoning with Anthony as my wingman. Yes, well, there are 3 points, or avenues of investigation, which I promise you are bubbling OA. And with that, my job is done. Are you ready to delve into this haunting mystery with hosts Gunnar, Anthony, and William? With that, I bid you adieu. This is Philip signing off until next time. Pleasant dreams.
Hole of a boot is created and things like that, you would find some of those things down there. There are synthetic materials that people were wearing even back then that would resist because, hey, everything in this ballroom resisted decomposition. So why wouldn't a watch?
I thought Cameron did say he saw shoes and things like that where he could tell people were there.
He saw shoes as in people's luggage, in people's closets and stuff like that. I'm talking about scattered around in the open areas where bodies.
I think I have an explanation for that. I do. Here's the explanation for that. The ship it took like 2 hours to go down, something like that. So it wasn't like instantaneous. Right. So while the boat was going down, everybody knew it was going down, and they were like, "Everybody get off the boat on the life rafts." And then, when it goes down, you're going down. You're definitely dead. So get off the boat. And so a lot of people hung on to the last minute because there wasn't enough life rafts, and they jumped in the water. Many of them died. But ultimately,
yeah, there was like 1,000 too few room on the lifeboats, which they ended up not filling to capacity.
Yeah, but they locked the bottom compartments. We know that.
How do you know?
Locked on the Titanic. I mean, they were. From eyewitnesses, from people who did get off the ship, they said that there were certain parts of the Titanic that they segregated off and locked. They either used gates, the engine room was sealed off almost immediately, which means your entire engine crew, which in a ship like that was probably 2 or 3 dozen men, they were sealed in there. They did not get to the top of the ship to dive off. So. In those,
I thought that the engine room ended up being torn though in the wreck.
I'm sure there were some areas that opened up. I thought the engine room was one of the things that they had tried to get into for like 20 or 30 years, and maybe only like 10 years ago they were able to enter through a tear in the hull or an actual tear they made in the hull. And again, they did not find what they expected in there. And it seems to be a little bit of chatter. Like so many things these days, amongst the people who are invested in this and who are doing the research and the exploration, but they're quick to write it off to some of these, more scientific explanations and stuff like that. But there still seems to be a surprise at certain points. Like I watched a couple of videos of them watching the vehicles, the remote control things exploring, and they're watching the screen and I can tell they're not seeing certain things that they expected to see, I think. And their reactions speak volumes, and I think to not be able to find, and they're finding little debris, they're finding combs and hairbrushes and things like that. So it's not like they needed these big objects to be able to locate them. To not find one set of teeth, one decomposed jawbone with teeth in it, very, very odd to me. You're not talking about 10 or 20 or 30 people. You're talking about 1,500 people. So let's say half of them jumped off the boat. You're still talking about 700, 800 people in that state that were, somehow locked into the sinking.
Well, I like to think that. I don't know. I'm optimistic when it comes to humanity. You have to be pure evil to be lock people in a boat sinking ship. You're sentencing them to death. At least give them the chance to jump off the boat. But I'm sure probably some did get trapped in there. So how many? I don't know. But my only explanation to that is this is a very valid explanation. It very well could be because we don't know what's in the bottom of the ocean in terms of life itself. Microorganisms, things like that there very well could be microorganisms on the bottom of the ocean that simply can eat everything, and they just eat, they can dissolve everything, and they work like acid almost. Who knows? We don't know. That's the problem. We haven't.
Right.
Well, plus your body has all these chemical reactions, right? Wouldn't it float? It's hard to keep a body down.
I don't know.
It's hard to keep good man down.
So they're floating out, right? And like you said, a lot of them jumped off, and they wore those life belt things that I think they are cork. And they say, like, when you jump off a boat like that, if you just jump off with that thing on, you'll break your neck, and then you just float away.
Yeah,
and that probably happened to a lot of people.
Or if you're too close to the sink, it sucks it down with you. It creates a vacuum and pulls you down with it.
But there's actually, like, I think when you're in the military, they train you how to abandon ship because it's easy
you're not
to
going to the deck is 150 feet high. You know what I'm saying? You jump off at 150 feet. Yeah, snap,
and you got
bang.
This thing around your neck.
And sure, a lot of those bodies.
That's why you even go backwards off the scuba boat. That's one of the reasons you go backwards off the scuba boat, so you don't get that. Yeah.
I'm sure hundreds of people just got floated away, dead. It is what it is. But if there were people on the ship, and you'd have to be either evil to lock them on the ship or dumb to stay with the ship. But didn't the captain decide to go down with the ship too, though? But he didn't lock himself in a room.
And we got to see this kind of like if they have they're worried about storming the lifeboats, maybe they were locked down and people witnessed that. But at some point, it's smoothing out and you go down and let them out.
That's what I like to think.
Boats are gone.
Yeah, I don't think you're evil. I'm evil. You're all going to die.
I hope not. Yeah, I'm just going
to. It says there are many stories of the third-class passengers being locked in. There are waist-high gates and locked doors. These were kept shut to funnel steerage passengers into the aft well deck, which was the quickest way for them to go. These were always locked in the evening until the morning. So like you said, nobody did it evil. There's nobody went down there to open them. So I guess the only way out was blocked, and where they usually lock them, so the third-class guests don't wander into the first-class guests and steal that big giant diamond you love.
But it's hard to say that in the last hour somebody didn't unlock the.
You had 2 hours.
Yeah,
right.
2
hours.
Screwed, but somebody locked. Yeah, you'd hear the screaming.
Not to mention, if you're working on the boat and you're like, "Holy crap, man! We got my boys locked down in the freaking basement. I'm going to let them out of here." I think most of the people would have got out. Most. So it's possible that's what happened. Did a handful?
Once the lifeboats are gone.
Exactly. But did a handful of people go down with the ship and get trapped in some of those chambers and parts of the boat? Very possible. There should be evidence of them there. There isn't, which is I can only trace back to
maybe they're just dissolved in the goo.
Listen, it says that all passenger ships of the time had regulations that were designed to keep the third-class passengers confined to the area of the ship. Not even to block them from getting the other one. They are confined
not in the case of sinking ship.
The Titanic.
Well, somebody would though,
back and unlock
because you have friends that are down there. You got, somebody would go down. I would do it. I don't even know those guys. I hear them yelling down there. I'm gonna go let them out.
I would like to believe that I would do that, but if I was on a ship with my family,
but here's the thing: you're a passenger. But if you work on the boat and you've made friends from working on this boat for months or weeks, with guys down in the engine room and guys in this compartment, you're thinking of them. You're like, I'm not going to abandon ship. Those guys are trapped in there. I'm going to go let them out. You know what I'm saying?
That's a lot of supposition. You're a good man.
I would.
Shit. Back in the day, Gunner'd be like, "Quick, give me your wallet. No time to argue."
Yeah, you want to get on this boat? You want to get on this life raft? Pay up.
First things first. Wallets.
One giant diamond.
Right? Women and children step out of the way. Biggest wallet, step up.
That diamond wasn't down there. It wasn't down with the poor Irish.
I just think that people, people would have let those people out. I don't know. Somebody would let them out. I like to think so.
There's always heroes in those situations.
People aren't evil. And that's another thing to keep in mind, by the way, is it wasn't like this. It was a slow death, meaning the boat started to tilt, list, a little bit, and it happened over 2 hours. So you're like, after an hour, you're like, man, this boat.
But everybody knew it was going down.
So I'm saying, they knew it was going down. So after an hour, let's say you work on the boat. After an hour, the captain is telling all the crew, Tell people it's going down. If I'm the captain, I'm like, go tell the engine room, go tell the workers in the third class, you go down, and it's not happening instantly. In the next 5 minutes, we have some time. Go get these people, tell them to get up deck and get off the ship. We're going down. I don't see him going, you know what I'm
Look for
saying? I don't
something
see
that
him going,
floats.
forget them.
I think they would just say, "What drones? What drones are you talking about?"
Right?
The ship is not going down. It's just rocky water.
Right.
Get back in your
I'd be
spot.
looking for that iceberg to sit on. You know what I'm saying? Where's the iceberg? I'm going to jump off the ship, climb up on that iceberg.
Who was the president of it's escaping me of Chase
He
Bank?
died on there.
Who started Chase Bank?
Oh, yes,
No,
right.
he didn't die on there. He loaded all his luggage on, and he got a bad premonition, supposedly, and he got off. Took his whole family off the ship. What the hell is his name?
I know what you're talking about. I remember that story. Yes. He didn't go on the boat.
There was also a famous book that predates that about a giant ship that sunk, and it was called the Titan.
That's creepy.
That's
about
creepy.
A giant cruise liner named Titan that sinks on its maiden voyage.
Yeah.
J.P. Morgan.
Yeah, it wasn't a premonition. It was the 12 o'clock movie.
Yeah.
J.P.
Morgan Chase. Duh.
Morgan. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah, so he actually his luggage and everything was loaded on the ship. And he was there with his family. They were going to make the trip. And then he decided to not make the trip. He actually did not remove his luggage from the ship. That's how much he last minute decided to get.
Well, that just goes to show you God is real, because I don't know if he was a good man or a bad man, a Christian or not. I'm going to guess he was, or somebody in his future bloodline was meant to change the world or be a good person, start a church, something. But here's the thing, bro. It's the unsinkable ship, a beautiful multi-billion-dollar cruise liner, luxurious, nothing but rich and famous people going to America. It's like, and all of a sudden you're like, got a funny feeling about this. It's not like a rickety old airplane you're flying in the jungle or something. It's like, that would be like you or I going onto a Carnival cruise liner, one of the biggest ones in the world, luxurious, going through the Caribbean or Mediterranean or wherever it is, and all of a sudden going, I got a bad feeling about this. I'm not going to do it. And then that boat sinks during the cruise. I mean, that doesn't happen by random chance. It's not arbitrary. There's no way, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then the conspiracy part of me says maybe they sank that boat to kill one person, and it was very inconvenient that one of the richest men in the world was getting on. So he got.
Or something along those lines.
At the last minute, though. Not in time to tell anybody.
Bro.
At the very last minute,
that's a great theory.
I mean, really. I was supposed to go. I'll tell you a story. I was supposed to go when I was in community college on a trip to Egypt. Of course, I love Egypt, and it was a dream of mine. And I woke up like 3 days before the trip. I had a really bad dream, and I got a bad feeling about it. And I said, you know what? I said I was sick about it. I said I can't go. I'm not going to go. I canceled. I didn't go on with the school, and nobody in the school got hurt. But that was while they were there. That's when the German tourists were shot at that particular bazaar.
That is crazy, man. Premonition, bro.
I'll tell you another one. When I was about 8 years old, I was sitting in the TV room of my parents' house, and I saw a news break from Abbott and Costello or whatever I was watching at the time, and it was that Egypt President Sadat was assassinated. And I was already into Egypt when I was very young. I'm like, and so I was yelling to my parents and blah blah blah. And we watched the news, and nothing ever came on. He was assassinated 3 or 4 days later.
That's crazy. Yeah, that is weird. I have one weird story like that. You'll get a kick out of. I was probably about 24, 25 years old. My cousin Johnny calls me up and he says, "Hey, meet me for lunch. I need your help with something." So I go to meet him for lunch at Coney Island. He says, "Listen, I got a bad feeling about this. I'm about to go sell this guy 3 kilos of cocaine. I'd like you to be there." I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "I need security. I don't know these guys that well, blah, 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 blah." And I needed the money. He said he'd give me $5,000. I was like, "That's a lot of money, $5,000." But, who are these dudes? And he's like, yeah. Anyways, I didn't get the right vibe feel from him. Johnny was a lunatic. Anyways, I said, no thanks. I got something to do. I got to go. And I walked the other way. Two things happened. One is he was under surveillance at the time. And they saw me with him and leave. And I got questioned about it later. Two, he went and killed those two drug dealers you met. And he went to prison for it. And so, like, had I gone with him, I might still be in prison. You know what I'm saying? He went, yeah, but something said don't do it.
Or he might have popped you too.
Yeah. Or could have killed me. Yeah, I could be dead.
Or he might have
or could have been killed. Right. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then it would just
be boring. Probably be a better show. Anyways, well, what else is it? I don't know what to say in terms of the missing bodies. Like a couple of things. My optimism for humanity wants to believe that there weren't many, if any, bodies trapped in there. People they had 2 hours to run around and unlock people and get them out of the ship so they could jump ship. But maybe there was a few that got trapped in there. God, rest their souls. But maybe the ones that did go down are all around the ship, and like not many went down around the ship. I just don't think when the ship goes down and people die, they just float off. They could end up 1,000 miles away in a week. But still, it's odd that there's not some remains of at least a couple of bodies, some teeth, something. And if that's the case, I have to believe that it's some kind of microorganism just ate them, or because there would be teeth, like you said. You got megalodon teeth that are 65 years old that are in perfect condition. Human teeth are no different. The enamel and stuff, they would be there. We have found humanoid teeth and jawbones and stuff that are millions of years old. So I don't see why it would be any different.
I guess it's that 12,000 feet under is the wild card.
You just don't know.
There's a lot. There's a lot to unpack. Or 2,080 fathoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, fathoms. It's hard to fathom those fathoms.
6 to 1.
What I'll do,
it's almost unfathomable.
What I'll do is at the end of the show, I'm going to put up a bunch of pictures. I'll do like a little slideshow of what's available as far as photographs that were taken down there, just so the viewers can take a look themselves if they haven't seen them yet. They're very eerie images. Of course, there's no light down there, so it's false light, and it's a scary idea to have such a wonderful creation of man's go down and
yeah. Well, we'll have to do a show in the future on the Mariana Trench. Now that doesn't seem like ancient myth, legend, and lore, but the Mariana Trench is super, super fascinating, and the things that they've seen down there with the artificial light, and they get glimpses of like just creatures, man, big old squid looking things, You're talking 5 miles deep, 35,000 feet. You know what I'm saying? Where we don't know what the frick is down there, and you're talking areas the size of Texas, or bigger than Texas, has size of the United States, really. That's just never been explored. We don't know what the frick is down there. It's massive.
I wanted to do a megalodon
crack of the earth
together. Yeah, they found actually something that's deeper too, which was it just came out a couple
deeper
of weeks
than
ago.
Mariana.
I looked it up. You guys want to do that next?
Where's that?
Yeah,
I know off India there's a real deep trench too. It's India, Indian Ocean.
I just had like 7 mom jokes go through my head.
Mob jokes or mom?
That's deeper than the Mariana Trench. Where is it? Mom!
Mariana. Oh my goodness! I went to school with her, bro. She was a loosey doozy. The Mariana Trench.
Yeah, scientists have discovered a place deeper than the Mariana Trench in 2018. It's when in 2018, NASA started testing a new probe designed to explore the ocean. But why has the world's biggest space agency decided that blah, 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 blah? I'm not getting into all that right now. But while they were doing this exploration, they found
where is it?
A location that was deeper than the Mariana Trench. I'm looking to see if anybody posted.
Oh, my light seems to have
YouTube.
Bill, I think this is plug fell out. That's all good. The Challenger Deep is the Mariana Trench. Yeah.
Mariana Trench, right?
That's how nerdy I am. I know stuff like that. Blur hole. Somebody else's
in
mom.
Russia. No. Oh. Yeah. We're gonna get banned. All right, I'll have to look it up. There's a bunch of hoo-ha here I have to weed through to find out what's real and what's not. Fish biologist reacts to deeper than the Mariana Trench. Let's see, this is somebody else's video.
Scientists have discovered a place deeper than the Mariana Trench. What's hiding there?
Why is the world's biggest space agency
NASA?
to go underwater? This challenging task requires using the newest knowledge and technologies.
So I'm just going to say, first of all, I have not heard that there's been a place discovered deeper than the Mariana Trench. And I feel like that would be something newsworthy that I would have heard about. But hey, let's hear them out.
In this video, you'll find out what challenges is NASA gearing.
This is a NASA pet project. Give us another $100 million. We got a place we need to explore.
I feel like, though.
So we'll just give it to Musk.
Listen to me, though. I feel like this just came full circle around to what's in the sky right now. I mean, really. Everything's coming out of the water, according to a lot of people, and NASA's down in the bottom of the sea.
Tied it together.
I don't know. I'm very confused.
We could go 2 shows back to tie this in. So
that's what I mean. Yeah. All right, but so you want to do the next show? You want to do a little bit about the Megalodon, and then we can get into the Mariana Trench.
I definitely want to talk about Megalodon because I believe it's still out there. But for now,
that would be a great
there's a lot of places the Megalodon could be. There's like 80% of the 90%, 80. I think it's 95% of the ocean we've unexplored. Could be anywhere. So
unexplored.
Most of the now, why don't you give them the new riddle? Or is it Alexander's going to call in and give the riddle?
Alexander's going to call in. He's going to leave me an actual voice message. Okay, so I'll just run the voice message at the end with the graphic.
I guess that's it as far as the Titanic. I know I'm a Leonardo DiCaprio fan, and I just can't believe that woman threw that diamond away, man. It's like it's a $100 million diamond, and I was like, why? The greed in me, just why? But whatever. She has Jack. She has the memory of Jack. So, well, God bless you, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure that you leave a comment and ask us or tell us what you want us to talk about. Leave subjects, leave comments. If you have anything you want to know or further discuss on these topics, feel free to comment and mention. And also, like I said, tell us what you want to hear more about. There are a million obscure like just subjects and topics and things. We're willing to dive into all of them and kind of pick them apart and see what we think and for you. So we're thinking for you. So yeah, thank you, Jason from Pasadena, California. You're the man. Everybody else, God bless. We'll see you next week on the next edition. And for my partner Bill Crooks and for my other partner Anthony DiPaolo, make sure to check out his book, Dragonstorm. This is Dragonstorm, Ancient Myths, Legends, and Lore. But tell them about your book before you go, Tony.
Yes. Sure. It's if you like all the stuff that we're talking about, it's a fiction. It's called Dragonstorm Gates is the first in the series, and then Dragonstorm Abracadabra. And it pretty much takes an eccentric millionaire, kind of puts together a team of young, all different types of skills to battle a great evil in the world, and it goes through so many archaeological and historical locations to solve these 12 riddles. Has to do with the Book of Gates from the Egyptian mythology. And at the end of that one, it leads us right into Abracadabra, which has to do with the Copper Scroll, ancient magic, and all kinds of stuff. All the stuff that we discussed. It really, if you like,
very cool. Stuff, people love it. It's got great reviews. So make sure to check it. Yeah,
of course, available in audio.
For now, God bless. We'll see you next week with another topic like Megalodon, and get into that one. Just saying. We're out.
Yeah.
You got a few teeth. All right.